Okay. And I will start off by asking uh, our panelists to briefly introduce themselves, just kind of what they're, who they are, what their program that they're representing is, just some kind of general overview. So, Brynn, can we start with you?
Yes, hello everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. So my name is Brynn Denee. I am the strategic campus recruiter for the Peace Corps based at the University of Maryland, and I am also a recently returned Peace Corps volunteer myself. So I served as an agriculture extension volunteer in a very small farming village in Madagascar from 2016 to 2019. So I guess, like as Lauren mentioned, I'll just kind of start by giving you all a bit of background information on what the Peace Corps is, and then hopefully throughout the panel we get into the more nitty gritty on how this can kind of be a gap year experience. So the Peace Corps in sum is a 2-year service opportunity for Americans to kind of work and live abroad in a community and collaborate with community members and leaders to address some of the key developmental needs experienced by that particular community. So volunteers are selected to work in one of 6 of the Peace Corps primary project areas. We also call them sectors. So that kind of is based on your interest as an applicant, but also your areas of expertise and your kind of academic background. So as a volunteer, you are either assigned to the health, the agriculture, the environment, the education, youth development, or community economic development sector. So I will say that the Peace Corps is currently accepting applications for work in these 6 sectors, and generally volunteers are placed in communities across parts of Asia, Africa, Latin America, and Eastern Europe. But I will say that given the COVID-19 pandemic, all of the departure dates, I guess, for service are tentative. So for the moment, we hope that volunteers will be departing by sometime in 2021, but those dates are still kind of tentative. So I hope that gives you a quick overview, and I look forward to getting into the details.
Thanks, Brynn. Dr. Cheon, would you mind introducing yourself quickly?
I don't know where to start. My name is Yewon, and I am a program director at the NIH for the Post-back program and summer internship program. And I, by myself, studied the nutrition in University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And I was a postdoc at NIH. And 8 years ago, I made a transition to this office to help younger scientists to move forward. And because of COVID-19, we unfortunately canceled all summer internship program 2020. And now we are planning to open 2021 application soon. Of course, we will watch public health status and concern, and we'll make adjust and different plan next year if we need to. But our current plan is opening application next month. Post-back program, by the way, has been continued. They usually start during the summertime after their graduation, but this year, because of COVID-19, NIH has been closed for a while, and we slowly opened the campus. And still, it is not full schedule. Everyone is working in a flexible schedule, but post-bac program has been continued. We actually have a highest number of participants this year. I think that's all. I mean, you'll get to know me a lot more and about the program when we have more discussions.
Excellent, thank you. Kevin, would you mind introducing yourself next?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Kennealy. As Lauren had mentioned before, I am currently a career advisor at the University of Maryland, specifically in the College of Arts and Humanities. But my role sitting on this panel today is as an alum of AmeriCorps. And so for 3 years, I was involved in AmeriCorps Vista programming with Campus Compact. which is a nonprofit that focuses on fostering college access and success in higher education settings. And so um, I served in 3 different capacities in my time in AmeriCorps. And so my first year was as an AmeriCorps Vista member, creating financial literacy programming for low-income students at a very small health science college. My second year was as a team leader. So I more kind of oversaw the training, recruitment, professional development efforts for a team of AmeriCorps Vista volunteers. And then my third year, I was hired on as a staff member who was overseeing an AmeriCorps Vista program with Campus Compact. And so to give you a little bit of context about AmeriCorps, like I said, my experience was with AmeriCorps Vista. There are 3 main branches of AmeriCorps Vista. The focus is more on fighting poverty, and specifically from a capacity building standpoint. So there's a lot of programs that work on, building large scale efforts kind of from the ground up to address various issues that are related to poverty. There are also a couple other branches of AmeriCorps, like AmeriCorps State and National and AmeriCorps Civilian Community Corps. And really, it's a huge conversation, but essentially the big takeaway, I think, for you to understand what AmeriCorps is it really is about addressing community needs. And that can go from things like what I was working in with education, but it can also look like, you know, more environmental efforts like sustaining national parks and preparing for national disasters. But it can also look like, working in like refugee resettlement or homelessness, really any service area. AmeriCorps, often will have an opportunity in that.
Thanks, Kevin. And Dr. Duvinage, would you mind introing yourself really quickly?
Sure. I direct the national scholarships on campus. Physically, we're located in Marie Mount Hall when we're there. And we work with a wide range of programs. Some of them are things that students apply for while they're in first, second, third year. We have a lot of programs for students who want to go to get PhDs, especially after college. And then we work with a range of things that can be used for gap years. The Fulbright program is the largest, but we also forward students to a lot of my colleagues on the panels here. We refer them to Peace Corps, to AmeriCorps, and to a number of other opportunities beyond those that they can use to do for a year or two after graduating. So we're kind of a good one-stop shop if you want to learn about Fulbright or related national scholarship opportunities for gap years. We also tend to point people in a lot of other directions when they come to see us.
Excellent, thank you. And of course, last but not least, Dustin and Katie, would you mind kind of respectively introducing yourselves and kind of your role within National Health Corps?
Sure. So it was really exciting to hear Kevin introduce himself because I was like, oh, an AmeriCorps program. So we're an AmeriCorps program too. So my name is Dustin Arceneaux. I'm program director for National Health Corps Florida, which is an AmeriCorps program that serves Northeast Florida. I've been in this role for about 4 years. And what our organization does is we partner with, I think, about 20 different nonprofits, medical centers, and hospitals throughout Northeast Florida, where we recruit somewhere around 28 different AmeriCorps members to serve in a lot of the capacities that Kevin already outlined. So, providing direct services to communities that are in need, low-income communities, clients in distress who have needs that are related to the social determinants of health. So we have members in clinical settings, in nonprofit settings, public health settings that are doing everything from health education to health screenings and assessments, insurance enrollment, COVID-19 response and testing, getting people enrolled in prescription assistance programs, which allow them to get medications for free, and just really assessing community needs in general through just the research the members are doing and finding new ways to give back and help the communities that need it. So we have members not only just doing healthcare services, we have them doing environmental cleanups, serving at local farms to get people access to food, serving at local food banks, as well as lots of different things to help people that need it.
Dustin basically said everything about it. I am currently serving at a federally qualified healthcare center in Northeast Florida, and my position is for the patient assistance program. So most of our clients don't have any health insurance, so it's getting the expensive medications for free, as well as doing some health education classes.
Excellent. So thank you all for taking a quick minute to introduce yourselves. So as you all noted, we're here to talk about kind of gap years, what a gap year is. I think that has kind of been, it's not necessarily always the clearest thing or the clearest intention or even what you do if you take a gap year. So with that in mind, would each of you either share, I know some of you actually have kind of used the programs that you're here to represent as a gap year. Would you mind talking about the kinds of skills and qualifications that students should have to participate in your programs, as well as kind of what skills you built during the programs, and if possible, kind of, you know, your own perspective or experience on it as well. Whoever wants to jump in can feel free.
I could talk a little about our program. So we tend to get a lot of people who want to go into the field of public health or in medicine. So pre-med applicants, pre-public health, maybe people who are looking to get their feet wet in healthcare before they go into the actual job market. So a lot of our members in regards to skill set is they come in here to build patient communication skills and really improve their cultural competency, because they'll be exposed to communities that they're not familiar with, as well as really understand what influences the social determinants of health and health disparities. So, you know, empathy and compassion is a really big one for ours. We're not really just looking for people to check this off the list to be like, oh, well, I want to go to medical school, so if I do this, this will allow me to get entrance to that. We're looking for people who can actually empathize and be compassionate, because the patients really do need a lot of assistance in a lot of really important ways. So people who actually want to build those skills or who already have them would be great fits for our program. A lot of the things that we really do focus on too is things like racial injustice, as well as just access to healthcare. So we do a lot of training in our program, since it is a service learning experience. Our members not only just give back to the communities, but we spend a significant amount of time training them on those different topics, so they are better professionals at the end of the year as well. So I'd say that those would be the skills that are usually best fit for our program, and really just emphasizing that desire to want to give back to communities in need, because a lot of the positions require that empathy and the desire to help others.
Thanks. And actually, on the flip side, Katie, if I could put you on the spot and ask you to share, as a current service member, kind of what do you feel are the most kind of important skills that you've been learning so far during your time of service?
I think a lot of it has to do with communication and how to communicate with these clients that are in a very different position in life than I am. And a lot of the clients I deal with are older, and like, how am I supposed to be telling them what they need to do to be healthy, or to change their to change like different behaviors they're doing that really aren't that healthy. But learning, like we learned about motivational interviewing, we had a training on that. And just getting a lot of information, also getting feedback, because there's 28 people on my core. Like, I mean, if we have a question, we like bounce stuff off with each other. And so again, I'm only like 2 months in, but I've already learned so much.
Awesome, thanks. Maybe Brynn, would you mind sharing next?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll kind of mention some of the skills that Peace Corps generally looks for in an applicant, as well as kind of some of the skills that you build and really hone in as a volunteer. And I think, Dustin, you've eloquently kind of spoken to some of the skill sets that Peace Corps both requires and builds. And I like seeing the kind of theme of service that we are building on here. So first of all, like, to be eligible for Peace Corps service, you have to be at least 18 years old. You have to be a US citizen. Contrary to what is often thought, you do not need a bachelor's degree to be a Peace Corps volunteer, although it is generally kind of desired, especially for some of the particular sectors, like the environmental sector, the health sector, the community economic development sector. Generally, we're looking for people who have some professional experience or perhaps a degree that kind of supports the work that will be done in those particular areas. We're also looking for people who have some experience with foreign language, have taken some classes. It doesn't necessarily have to be the language of the country that you are eventually going to serve in, but just a kind of commitment to learning new languages. Some volunteer experience. Peace Corps is all about service. So demonstrating a commitment to working in your own community throughout your life Peace Corps is something that we like to see as a value in our applicants. So in terms of kind of the skill sets that you build as a Peace Corps volunteer, language is huge. You leave your 2 years of service fluent in a foreign language, and also kind of fluent in I would say cultural competency. Maybe not fluent, but kind of working towards understanding how to work with people who are different from yourself in different cultures, and engage in sensitive ways. And kind of one big thing that you get out of Peace Corps service is a real strong sense of self in terms of how you fit in the larger context of the world around you. So it's this big kind of world view that we're hoping to cultivate in Peace Corps volunteers. And in addition to that, you kind of get these really extreme technical skills. So, it depends on what sector you're working in, but you could get, some business advising skills. You could get some really hands-on experience working with high-risk youth or teaching HIV/AIDS to at-risk populations. You get teaching skills, coaching skills. So the big thing, I guess, about Peace Corps is that you come out of it with really strong on-the-ground experience and perspective on working on some really key development issues that are kind of issues that are, yes, in Peace Corps countries, but also kind of issues that we deal with also in the US, similarly to what we kind of experienced with the AmeriCorps program. But sorry, that's a mouthful. I'll cut it off there.
Thank you. All really great information, Brynn. Dr. Cheon, would you mind stepping in next?
So I think our program is a little bit different. Our program is full-time research opportunity, and a lot of students actually planning to go to the graduate school, medical school, or a different job field, including also now growing population, they go to public health school as well. So competitive applicant would be, they genuinely need to be interested in research, and they have shown a research experience during the college time, and they are willing to work on to the research project, right? And when they arrive, then I mean, so now a lot of audience, I guess, is from the public health department. There are many different type of public health research projects. So mainly you can search those things in a website and database, but I've seen epidemiology, biostatistics, social science, cognitive science, and community participatory project. There are a big array of research projects you can choose, and you are doing 1 or 2 years, sometimes 3 years of research, and you move on to the graduate program. NIH is a big research institution, so there are lots of different type of resources available, or you can collaborate. And our office also offers lots of career development, professional development opportunity. We see a lot of students who would be successful would be, they have a resilient mindset and growing mindset, and of course, being strong in academic field would be also a plus. But it is a great research opportunity before you actually move on to the next research career. I would say 50% of students will go to the medical school after our program, and sometimes combine the degree with MD, PhD, or MD, MPH. And also around 50% goes to the graduate school, including public health as well. But some of them actually go to Peace Corps after post-bac, or some of participants who already have done AmeriCorps or Peace Corps, they actually, after they have done those things, they come to NIH, do more research project as well. Some of them go to different field of industry or law school, MBA, PA school. I mean, they are exploring so many different type of career path while they are in a post-bac program. I think that is a perfect opportunity to have, I would say, I do not like a gap year because you are actively working for something. So this is not just like a filling your gap, right? You are preparing your opportunity for next step, but it's a really critical and important period of time of training. You learn about yourself and figure out what you want to do and look for the next step and prepare for next step.
Great, thanks, Dr. Cheon. And I appreciate you kind of sharing that definition of gap year and kind of reframing it, because that is kind of what the intent of this panel is to, you know, gap year is not necessarily a year to just kind of, you know, sit on your couch, kick up your heels and do nothing, right? It's you're learning something, you're gaining skills. And so thank you so much for everyone who's talked so far about kind of what those skills are, how to make, you know, something out of that gap year. Let's see, Kevin, would you mind going next?
Yeah. So, you know, I think a lot of the points that I would touch on have been stated by other panelists as well. So just to kind of piggyback off of some of those things, you know, I think for AmeriCorps Vista specifically, but AmeriCorps in general, I think, you know, a huge part of what makes you a good fit is your passion and your interest in that field that you might be seeking out. And, you know, I think specifically for me, in my experience on the you know, hiring of AmeriCorps Vista volunteers, and you know, a big thing that we were looking for in our program focused on higher education was having a sense of an awareness of social justice issues, of equity and inclusion, and to be able to kind of, like Dustin said before, tap into that empathetic side of yourself in order to serve, you know, within the community that you might be looking to serve in. At the end of the day, a lot of the, you know, a lot of the skills that were needed and those kinds of pieces, a lot of those were efforts that we made in training of our volunteers. You know, they weren't, you know, obviously it's great to have some foundational like communication skills and pieces that will serve you well, but a lot of the like very specific you know, types of things that you might be doing on the job are things that are covered in trainings and things like that. So I think really that passion and awareness of self side of things and awareness of the world, you know, around you is a huge part of that. And so you know, I think then to kind of speak on the skills that at least I know that I felt like I built in my time in AmeriCorps, but that I've heard others talk about too, is one is an ability to work autonomously. You know, I think a lot of AmeriCorps programs and gap year programs, that you are part of a team, but at the same time, you know, it's a great opportunity to step into a role that you're passionate about, that you might not, you know, have tons of experience in, but be able to take leadership roles in different ways, to be able to kind of, you know, guide programming in a certain way, you know, from kind of an early step in a career process. It was something that was really helpful for me. I got a lot of program development knowledge, event planning, a lot of, you know, experience building partnerships within the community, learning how to, you know, leverage those partnerships in a mutually beneficial way. Those were some huge skill areas that were important to my experience.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kevin. And Dr. Duvinage, not to put you on the spot last, but if you wouldn't mind sharing, I know that your role is a little different from some of the other panelists, but just from your perspective, kind of what skills are these students looking to develop maybe in the different opportunities they're being connected to when they come to your office,
Sure.
and kind of what do they go on to do? Things.
Well, the first thing we try to do when students come to the scholarships office is learn about them and their goals and their activities and what they hope to be doing in the future. And that really helps us to point them to the programs that my colleagues on the panel represent. We also refer a lot of people to Teach for America. So we try to get a sense of who you are as a student to figure out what directions would be worth exploring for you. I will focus a little bit on the Fulbright program in particular, because that is a large program that we work with directly in our office. Fulbright is a State Department program that encourages citizen ambassador experiences. So the goal of the program is to send people, you have to graduate from college first, so often right after college, all over the world, to spend a year living. You could be doing either English teaching, you might be earning a master's degree in some cases, or in many cases, you're doing research on a topic that you pursued intensively as an undergraduate. So either as an English teacher, as a student earning a master's degree, or as an independent researcher or a researcher, say in a lab environment in another country, you are learning shoulder to shoulder with people there. You're working with them. You're learning. You're improving or learning a language. You're getting a really deep cultural immersion experience, and we get a really wide range of students looking for this. We have pre-meds who want to expand their cultural competence. We have language majors who want to have the chance to live and work in a country that speaks the language they've been studying for many years. We also have students from just about every major who've been doing research at Maryland and have become passionate about an issue and want to go and spend a year abroad in a lab doing field research, doing public health research. Fulbright creates a lot of space for that. It's a large program. There are a couple of thousand Fulbright awards, I believe, every year. So there's a lot of room in the Fulbright program to do a variety of things that have an international focus. And I think what others have said is true. People are doing this not to kill time before graduate school, but rather to gain some specific skills and experiences that will enhance their future work. That's I think, a characteristic we're looking for. Some characteristics that students can have that will make them more effective Fulbright applicants. Same as has been said before, we like to see people who are engaged, who are volunteering, who are engaged in service, who take leadership opportunities. We like to see people that have been thinking a lot about what they want to do in the future and testing it out through internships or volunteering and other activities. We love language students. That's always a great thing to bring to the table. Heritage languages are very empowering too. We have a lot of heritage language speakers who apply to Fulbright to go to parts of the world that speak a language they grew up with. I think I'd leave it at that for now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all so much for sharing that. So we did have a student question come through, and I just want to take this moment to remind students, if you have questions as we're going through and our panelists are kind of talking, if you could actually just direct them either to me, so Lauren Meyer, or my GA is now on with us as well. Her name is Tomi, T-O-M-I. So you can direct your questions to either one of us and we'll make sure that the panelists get them. But so the question that has come up is specifically for National Health Corps, but I think is good and kind of relevant for all the other programs as well. So they're wondering specifically about what the term of service, so how long the term of service is, and what the application process looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Dustin, and then I'll ask everyone to kind of offer perspective on that for the different programs.
Sure. So the term of service in our program is 10.5 months. So the first, I think, 2 weeks or so is pre-service orientation, which is mandatory for all AmeriCorps programs. And then the rest of the term, which is the 10 months, is the actual service at your host site organization. So that's the term of service with our program. We have, for example, it tends to run from late August to around July of each year. However, we do have some positions that are still recruiting now, like we have one here in Florida that we're still recruiting for, as well as other operating sites that are still recruiting for this year that have open positions that you can apply for. But generally speaking, our actual applications open up in the spring, and we accept applications until all of our positions are full to get them ready to start in, end of August. So that's generally how our cycle runs, but we continue on until all of our positions are full. In regards to the application process, we have an online application. So you can submit one application through our online portal, which you can find on our website at nationalhealthcorps.org. And that application will be sent to, or you have the option to select one or all 6 of our operating locations. We have one here in Florida, we have one in Chicago, 2 in Pennsylvania, one's in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Those are the 2 there. We have one in New York. So like, I think it's like Catskill Range. No, I think so. Yeah, I think it's just outside of New York, Poughkeepsie area.
Yeah.
And then we also have one in San Francisco as well. So we have 6 operating locations that you can apply to, and we have lots of different positions that cover a lot of different areas of health there. You know, the application process, we look for very similar things to the other programs that are relevant here, you know, previous volunteer experience, research experience. It's the same also as Peace Corps, which I learned that just now, is that you don't have to have a bachelor's degree. You just have to at least be 18 years of age and have a GED or high school diploma. However, the majority of the members that do score into our program have completed some sort of bachelor's degree education, or in some cases a master's degree. And those are the ones that tend to match with our host sites. And then from there, the application process is you'd interview with program staff first to see if you're a good fit for operating location, and then you'd be moved on to be able to potentially interview with any of our 28 positions that we have in this location, and you know, roughly around 20 in each operating location, depending on where it is. So yeah, that would be what our application process looks like. And as I said, applications usually open up in around, I think around March each spring, we start accepting applications.
Awesome, thank you. And if you wouldn't mind really quickly, is there kind of a maximum term of service? Like could someone do, you know, multiple kind of cycles or apply multiple times? Is there a cap?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do have some members that will sign on for a second year of service, and that's more than allowable. You would have to reapply to the program, and we usually recommend that you choose a different position too, just to kind of diversify your experience. But we definitely do have members that do more than one term of service. And this applies to AmeriCorps overall too. You can apply for AmeriCorps at least 4 times in your life, but you can only receive the education award that you get with like our program only twice. So if you complete our program, which is the 10.5 months, which is a full year, you know, full term of service, you get a roughly around $6,000 education award that you can use towards higher education expenses, as well as tuition or pre-existing loans. And you can get that amount at least twice, but you can serve with AmeriCorps up to 4 times, and you can apply as many times as you like until you actually complete 4 terms of service. So I think that's a really cool benefit. Some people go into serve with AmeriCorps if they're between jobs, like if the job market is crazy and people can't find work, they can just do an AmeriCorps program to make ends meet for the time being, to get more professional development, which will then allow them to re-enter the workforce. It's a really great program that allows for a lot of professional development, and it's especially tailored for students because, I mean, you're just getting out of school, great opportunities for you to get out there and do things. So yeah, does that answer the question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And you brought up the Ed grant, which I am happy that you did because I was going to ask about that too. I did AmeriCorps, got my Ed grant, and it really helped with my master's program. So if anyone else just wants maybe more incentive to join a program.
Yeah, and just to tell you a little bit more about the education award too, is some universities also match the education award too. So while I just said 6,000, I always use Tulane as a good example of that. Is they're a service-oriented university. So when someone applies to Tulane and they get accepted there, if they have an education award, the university actually matches that. So it's actually $12,000 at some universities, which is actually a very cool benefit. So that's something to keep in mind.
Thank you. That is something I did not know. Moving on, thanks to Dr. Cheon. I know you already mentioned kind of how much time students tend to kind of stay, or I guess not students anymore, but post-bacs tend to kind of stay in the research position. But if you wouldn't mind revisiting that, and then also talking a little bit about the application process.
Okay, so initial contract is always 1 year, but of course, when you start certain time and if you need to leave to the next education to start the fall semester, you can break the contract, but initial contract is 1 year, and then it is up to 2 years. A lot of researchers want to have a post-bac to stay 2 years because when you stay more, and then you can be more independent, you can contribute more. And then as a post-bac, standpoint, as soon as when they started, they will soon need to apply to the graduate school or medical school, and then they could not talk much about their NIH experience. So 2 years more desirable. And sometimes they request 30 extension. Sometimes they are sick or emergency happens, or they couldn't get into the grade school or medical school. So in those cases, if PI supports, they can request third year. Our application is open year round. So actually they can submit at any time and then they can start at any time. But typically they start during the summertime because most of them, they just start postbac position right after graduation. And then they leave postbac position because majority of our students go to graduate school, medical school, or professional schools. So they actually leave the lab during the summertime. So that leaves a lot of vacancies during the summertime. So it's like a cycle, but in theory, they can start at any time. They can submit application at any time as long as they can find the PI. So the application process is we have in our portal, and then you submit your online application. And application comprises of personal information and a resume and a cover letter, which is personal statement, and coursework. So we do not accept the official transcript until you get accepted, but you need to list all your coursework you have done. And then 3 recommendation letter. So you do not need to those people directly to collect reference letters. The next step is a little tricky. There are like more than 1,000 principal investigators, and each year they hire 1 or 2 postbac students in their lab. And you can consider this as like a small business. Those people who want to hire postbac, they can go into the database and search by the keyword or name, or they can search alma mater or looking for certain major, and they can find a candidate. But there are just so many applications. So we recommend all those applicants to actually proactively connect to the PIs. So you can watch YouTube video how to find NIH mentor, or you can go to our website, and by putting your keyword, you can search research group you want to work with, and then read about their research project, and then reach out to those PIs, principal investigators, whom you want to work with, showing your interest, and then actually a lot of time those people would go into the database and find out their application. So just submit application waiting is not a good idea. I would recommend after submitting your application, you actually actively search research group you want to join and then send out lots of email. That's how a lot of people get positions.
Excellent, thank you. And when I send out the recording of this, I will be sure to link to all of the portals for these kind of application sites as well. So anyone who is here and kind of wondering like, okay, where do I go to find these? I'll make sure to link there. Brynn, would you mind talking a little bit about the Peace Corps term of service and application process?
Certainly, yeah. So I think I mentioned it earlier, but the Peace Corps is actually a 2-year service commitment. So this would be a 2-year gap, I guess. And I know that sounds kind of long. It was a daunting time period to me when I first signed up, but Peace Corps really emphasizes it. And I can kind of, attest from personal experience that the 2 years is really necessary in terms of learning the language and kind of integrating into your community, starting from an outsider to kind of an insider. So it's a 2-year time commitment with the option to extend service once you complete your 2 years. So I actually applied to extend for another year after my 2 years was up, and stayed working at Peace Corps headquarters in Madagascar for another year, supporting my fellow volunteers in the field. But there are many kind of options for your 3rd or even 4th year of service if you would choose to kind of extend your service. So in terms of the application process, it's similar sounding to others mentioned. It's kind of extensive. It's a bit of a long process. Usually we kind of tell people it takes about 6 to 9 months from going to applying to actually thinking about getting ready to depart for service. So applications for the Peace Corps are accepted on a rolling basis. That means, that we're accepting applications for volunteer work all the time. And currently there are no deadlines. That's one change that has come as a result of the COVID pandemic. There are no application deadlines, whereas before we kind of had 4 throughout the calendar year. But generally we kind of see that, especially for graduating seniors who are thinking of something to do after they graduate in May, they usually start to apply in kind of December of the year before. So they would depart kind of sometime mid kind of the following year. So right now we kind of have 3 departure brackets. We have early 2021, mid 2021, and late 2021. So anyone who's interested in applying to the Peace Corps can technically apply for any of those departure slots right now up until a few months before departure. So in terms of kind of what's necessary, what the parts of the application are, we would require a resume and a motivational statement. It's about 500 words, pretty precise, stating your interest and kind of values and why you're interested in the Peace Corps. We require 3 references, and then there is an hour-long virtual interview. And also in addition to that, a kind of extensive medical history form. And you have to produce some documents showing that you are fit for service physically. So I hope that kind of answers the question, the 2 questions.
Absolutely, thank you. And Kevin, I know Dustin already kind of touched, at least from the National Health Corps perspective, but if you could add anything that might be different from your perspective of AmeriCorps.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of things are similar to what Dustin articulated because AmeriCorps is fairly uniform in their applications across the board. There are some differences in what it might look like. So, for example, for AmeriCorps Vista, almost all of the terms are full 12-month terms. Some might be summer AmeriCorps Vista programs. And so the program that I was a part of was a 12-month. And from my knowledge, that is actually the longest that any AmeriCorps term would ever be in a single term. You could obviously reapply for multiple terms like Dustin had mentioned. As far as the application goes, there is a great website to check out as well called My AmeriCorps. So it's my.americorps.gov. And that is essentially the hub where you can find really any posting for any AmeriCorps position, whether it's Vista, State and National, or NCCC. And you can use their sorting tools to explore based on, your area of interest, based on where you're looking to be geographically, whatever that might be. I think you can also do like full-time or part-time because there are some part-time AmeriCorps positions as well. So, and you can fill out the application on there and then submit it to many different other organizations. They may require you, once you submit that, to submit some additional materials. Each program kind of handles that differently. For instance, we required a resume and cover letter to be sent to us after as well. And then one thing I did want to touch on too is a timeline as well. For our program, since it was higher education based, we very much aligned with the higher education timeline. So we would often start hiring processes in the late spring going into the early summer and have folks placed usually by, at the latest, mid-July. Usually a lot of that would happen in June and early July. However, what I will say is that if you are interested in AmeriCorps, You can always find AmeriCorps positions available on my AmeriCorps at any time of the year. All programs will have different timelines. So even though it sounds like kind of the case for Dustin and Katie, as well as the program that I was a part of, might align more with that higher education timeline. Not all do that. And just as the last comment too, since it was touched on by Dustin as well as Lauren, I received 2 education awards during my time as an AmeriCorps member, and used about half of that to pay off federal loans that I had from undergrad, and then half of it to at least partially fund my graduate school experience, which I just finished up in May. And so, and in my graduate school application process too, I did get multiple matching offers as well that Dustin had mentioned as well. And so that was incredibly beneficial.
Thanks, Kevin. And before we move on to Dr. Duvinage, because I do have a specific kind of question regarding Fulbright for you. There was a question really quickly. So Kevin and Dustin, I don't know if you could touch base on this, but do you know if UMD is one of those schools that matches that education grant or not? Because I actually don't know.
So it does, I know it changes, from year to year. There is, I don't know off the top of my head right now. I did not, in my graduate experience, because I went to Maryland for my graduate school, did not get a matching offer. I ended up going because I was able to get funded through an assistantship. But one thing I can do right now is actually find the website that lists all of the matching schools and then send it to Lauren so she can share it in the chat. If that's helpful.
And my advice to that question is just check with your financial aid department. A lot of members ask how to go about that process. My response is just ask them. Like some members, while they don't have a history of matching education awards, if you just ask the financial aid department, sometimes they match it just because you asked the question. So it's worth asking any of your provide more assistance.
Thanks, Dustin, and thanks, Kevin. Definitely we'll post that into the chat and then also include it and link it in the follow-up email. So Dr. Duvinage, we had a specific question kind of and then related to this term of service / kind of logistics for applying. Could you touch a little bit more on the Fulbright kind of logistics in terms of kind of what does the scholarship look like? How are students connected? I think the specific question was, do they get a scholarship to attend programs? Do they have to create programs? What are kind of the logistics around that?
Sure. Well, it's an academic year program, so it's typically 9 to 10 months, like some of the others just mentioned. And they typically start in August, although in some Southern Hemisphere countries where the academic calendars are flipped, they might start in January. So it's a 9-10 month experience. The application process, lots of forms, essays. Typically, we like students to spend around 3 months overall working on their applications. They're due at the end of September. And then people find out results the following spring, sometime between February and April usually. Now, in terms of what they fund, it depends on what you're doing. If you're an English teaching assistant working in one of over 70 countries, you get a stipend that allows you to live what I would describe as an off-campus student lifestyle that's sufficient to meet your costs for food, room and board, transportation, regular expenses of normal life. If you're doing a master's program, that grant may also cover your tuition. That varies by country. Not all countries do that, but many do. If you're doing a research project, you really get the stipend that we talked about in the first place and meet your living expenses that way. In the case of a student doing research through Fulbright, there's not an academic degree typically involved, so you're not paying tuition. Tuition isn't covered for you. You're typically doing a year of independent work not leading to a degree. So not unlike what a student would do at NIH for a post-bac, you get valuable research experience, but you're not earning an academic degree while you're doing it. You are gaining lots of other benefits that might be relevant to your grad school, but not a degree.
Excellent. Thanks so much. We did have a few other chats that questions that came in through the chat, but I want to be very respectful of everyone's time, realizing that we have about 4 minutes left in this. And so I will ask all my panelists right now, are you willing to have students reach out to you after this, or is there a line that you would be willing to share with me where students can get kind of direct answers about programs? So if that is the case, I will share that information in the email so students can follow up directly or have a direct resource to go to. Okay, thank you. So then before we kind of leave today, I would love to pose the question of if there's kind of one thing as per related to taking a gap year or using the program you're representing as a gap year that you think students should take away, if there's kind of a most important takeaway from today, if you wouldn't mind sharing that. And Brynn, would you mind going first?
Sure. Yeah. So just kind of quickly, the way I see a gap year is it provides kind of two things. One, it can kind of give you a sense of maybe what you want to do in terms of your career moving forward, give you some skills. But for me, what is really important about the Peace Corps is that it also gives you kind of this chance to develop personally and kind of expand the world around you, gain a sense of self, get some confidence. And you have under your belt basically an experience like no other that really will stay with you for the rest of your life. And I know it has immensely contributed to my, personal development and as well as professional development. So
Okay, thank you. Moving on next, actually, I would like to ask Katie if you wouldn't mind sharing your kind of perspective, because I know as a current service member, I'd love to hear from you kind of what you think students should take away in relation to that.
This is actually my second gap year. Last year I was serving with the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. But I think for me, it's just been a great opportunity to really hone in on what I want to do. I'm very interested in public health and this social determinants of health and health inequity. So I think just really learning and also doing training, professional development, networking. There's a lot of opportunities to really learn and grow. And I think I'll become, I do also have the benefit of, I think, becoming a better applicant for graduate school as well. That's not the sole reason, but that is definitely a benefit. But I also, it's just been really great. I'm learning so much. And this is going to be a great year.
Thank you. And Dustin, if you wanted to add anything on top of that.
Sure. I definitely agree with everything Brynn said in regards to what people get out of gap years based on my experience with this program and AmeriCorps overall. I'd say one thing that I tell my members is this is not just an opportunity of something that you're kind of just doing, putting your feet up and, as you go into, what you're going to do next. This is really an opportunity for you to do something that you're really proud of. Like a lot of members, when they apply to this program, they say, all right, well, I'm going to be especially with med students, I'm going to be literally reading and doing research for the next 8 years plus. This is an opportunity for me to connect with individuals and make a difference in other people's lives and really try to make a difference with this year before I'm, back in school. Because academia can really remove you from, social problems, social inequity, communities in need, where it's more theoretical as opposed to real world. And this really gets you that experience to actually do something that's meaningful, that's real world before you go back into the theoretical and the learning aspect of it. So.
Thanks so much, Dustin. Dr. Cheon, would you mind imparting your last words of wisdom?
I think everyone said really beautifully. I would recommend open your mind and explore different fields. You oftentimes maybe have a fixed mindset, and there are a lot of opportunity out there. So when you have a chance, reach out to all those possibilities and use the resources around you. And whichever path you choose, I think these are all good opportunities. And when you are in there, maximize your opportunity. And this is a really critical time. Again, I would say learn about yourself and about build your resilience skills. So that will be a really good asset to be useful in your next step.
Thank you, Dr. Cheon. Dr. Duvinage, if you wouldn't mind sharing your last few nuggets of wisdom.
Sure. What we like to advise students to do is to just always try to be thinking about what they're interested in, what they care about, what kind of difference they want to make in their future lives as well as in the present, and to be active, be engaged, be involved. Everybody likes a student who's active and involved and engaged. So it'll create a lot of opportunities for you down the road. It could be for any or many of these programs that you're hearing about today. But just show us what you care about by doing things. And I think that's the best advice we can offer.
Thank you. And last but not least, Kevin.
All right, going last, no pressure. No, it's okay. So yeah, you know, I think honestly, everyone has summed it up very well. But, you know, for me, I think about a key takeaway is, you know, finding, you know, a gap year can be meaningful because finding a way to engage and be a meaningful part of a community really teaches you a lot. And, you know, I think it teaches you a lot about other people, but also teaches you a lot about yourself. You know, I think it's a great way to, you know, essentially connect your head and your heart in a lot of ways is how I think about it. Because, you know, for me, I think about my experience and I was a business major in undergrad and, you know, didn't feel like pursuing a traditional path there was for me. I got a lot of value out of that, but really wanted to explore serving, you know, what serving others and serving alongside others really could mean for me. And it has completely changed my own career trajectory as well as my understanding of who I am as a person. And so I think for that reason, it's been incredibly valuable.
Well, I don't think I could have asked for a more perfect summary as to what a gap year can offer, or a more perfect kind of panel of different types of opportunities. So thank you so much to all of our panelists for taking the time today to impart the information, personal experience for our students. Like I said, I know that we didn't get to all of the questions in the chat, but I will share the various information and kind of sites that our panelists have shared with me in the follow-up email that will share this recording. For any students who are on right now who have not already done so, if you could just look into the chat, I posted the link to the kiosk number. You could just use the code 1234 and then enter your UID. It'll just let us know everyone that kind of came here today. So if you want to take a moment to do that before you sign out, but otherwise that concludes our panel on gap years today. We only ran 4 minutes over, and I think that that's a testament to everyone being fairly concise with their answers. So thank you so much and have a wonderful remainder of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.